Welcome to episode 212 of Girl Take the Lead, where each week we explore womanhood and leadership. And I'm your host, Yo Canny. Dr. Amanda Kenderes, author of the book Talk Types: How What We Say Reveals Who We Are, joins us to talk about her talk type model. Also joining and giving generational perspectives are daughters Kiki, the GenZer, and Emma, the Millennial. Amanda is a professor of interdisciplinary studies at Humphreys University. She holds a Ph.D. in social science and comparative education from the Graduate School of Education and Information Studies at UCLA. She grew up in North and South America, Asia, Africa, and Europe. Topics we covered included her talk type model, benefits of knowing your talk type, how listening relates to talking. Yo, Kiki, and Emma identify their talk type, and talk types in families and teams. As you listen, try to figure out what talk type you are and what the talk types are of those closest around you. And if there's someone you just don't seem to gel with, what talk type do you think they are? In our last episode, we talked about goals, intentions, and resolutions and joy. Understanding talk types might help us all connect with others in what happens to be on our intention list. And there's one other thing. I think we can be in those real moments of joy when we're doing those things that are aligned with our talk type. Just think about it as you listen to this episode. Enjoy. And here you go. Well, welcome, Amanda.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
So glad to have you back. Kiki, do you want to just introduce yourself real quick?
So, hey guys, Kiki here, Yolanda's Gen Z daughter.
Emma. I'm the resident millennial. I am currently in between sending out contracts for end of year for Q4. I work in finance.
Thanks for joining, honey. I know that you guys adjusted your schedules.
Amanda, go ahead. We'd love to learn more about you.
Perfect. Yeah. So my name is Amanda Kenderes, and I'm a professor and communication expert is the new label people are putting on me, but it's not new to me. It's been something I've been doing for a long time. An introduction, it's hard to keep it short. I was an international kid raised on 5 continents. That's, I had so many questions about communication growing up, and that was the backdrop, this international upbringing that allowed me to kind of test things out and answer questions. So yeah, I think that's enough to get us started, but good to be here.
Thanks, Amanda. Yeah, let's start talking about your book.
Yeah.
Because I know I've had a chance to read it, and I know our listeners are going to really find it interesting. Talk types: how what we say reveals who we are, and if you could tell us why you wrote it.
Yeah. So this is the culmination of, some 30 years of work. Like I tell my students, some questions we can answer in a few seconds, like, what shoes I'm going to put on, what I'm going to eat for breakfast. Some questions take a few minutes, a few months, maybe, but these are questions that took years to answer. And I was stubborn enough to think that I could actually answer them. It started in elementary school. I was living in Greece at the time. And because our family moved every 3 years, embassy family, I knew that I had to connect quickly because we're going to be moving on, soon again. So I tried to connect my way. I like deep talks, and I figured let's just skip the small talk and dive right in. But that didn't go over very well most of the time with most people. And so it just led to a whole series of questions. And even from, the playground in elementary school through middle school, high school, and so on, I did a lot of observing, and I had questions like, why is it that with some people we can connect quickly and easily and just lose track of time? An hour could go by. And then with other people, we have to work to think of things to say. Why is it we have different senses of humor? Why do we have different tastes in movies, books, podcasts? I had, and most people say, well, oh, we have different personalities and chalk it up to that and move on. But that wasn't good enough for me. I figured, well, there's got to be a reason. What is it about our different personalities? And so finally, now at 44, actually I was 43 when I published it. I got the answers out, and I'm really excited to share them.
Yeah. Well, the book is amazing. You've got exercises in there, such provocative questions, ways to bring in the reader. I just really enjoyed it. And
Thank you.
tell us about the talk type model that
Yeah.
you really and the three categories.
Yeah. So this is the really cool thing that I discovered. Around the world, there are really only three reasons that people talk. Everything is reducible to these three reasons, fundamental reasons. We have let me share the big framework first, and then we'll go to specifics. There are two main reasons that we talk. We talk to share our experiences, or we talk to share our understanding. Okay. But our understanding can be objective or subjective. An objective understanding, it's factual. Oh, it's hotter than usual today. Well, we could verify that with numbers, look at the data history, and see that that's actually a fact. Objectively, that's a fact. And then there's the subjective understanding. That's the deep, sometimes vulnerable, meaning-making stuff. Like, I had a really difficult childhood, or I had a really wonderful childhood. Either way, it's my subjective understanding, and nobody from the outside can say, no, that's not true. That's my truth. So because of that, we end up with three reasons for talking. We've got two kinds of understanding, and sharing our experiences. That's three kinds of talk, three reasons for talking. And then it shows up as three kinds of talk. So in short, we got A, B, and C. And A is factual talk, the objective understanding bit. B is sharing our experiences, it's relating. And C is our deep understanding. So A, B, and C, factual talk, relating, and meaning making. And when we rank, so to answer our question, my questions, and many of us probably have them. Why is it that some of us can connect quickly and some of us it takes work? It's because we don't like these three reasons for talking the same. We rank them differently. Some of us like C best, B second best, and A last. Some of us like A first. And depending on how closely we are aligned with each other, will predict how easily it will be to connect with each other. And the three kinds of talk, the three categories of talk, end up, when you rank them, you get 6 talk types. So that's the short of it. 6 talk types, everyone across the planet is one of them, including everyone here.
Well, I think I want to make sure that our listeners are able to grasp some of this. You're not saying that we're only one type. You're just saying that we kind of rank them a little bit differently. It's not to say that if you're really into finding meaning that you're not informing. It's you blend them Do I have that right?
We do. So I like to think of them as a home base. Um, and I also like to distinguish between our preferences and our practices. So if you know anything about other personality models like Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, these kinds of things, um, there's there's some overlap and some similarities to the kind of philosophy behind it. Um, I see, and I have seen that people pretty much stick to their home base. My kids look like they already have a talk type, you know, from what I can tell, even at this age. And over time, I haven't seen people change their talk type. Their home base stays the same. That's their set of preferences.
Huh.
But if we look at practices, well, I mean, we can do anything. I mean, we can dial up or dial down any of these letters, and that's good. We want to be able to do that, and that allows us to interact in different contexts and conversations in any way that we want. So so yes, I think we do have a home base. That's our set of preferences, but our practices can vary.
And why do you think it's important to know our types like that?
Oh gosh, because communication is how we interface with the world and everyone around us, including ourselves. Talk is the medium by which we do everything, even think. We use words a lot of the time. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we have a feeling. But the overwhelming majority of the time, as communicators, we use language, and language can be grouped into these three categories. So in knowing them, then we have it empowers us. It empowers us to connect with people better, empowers us to make better decisions. We don't have to go on 6 first dates with the same person. We can, we know after one that, nope, not what I'm looking for, because we can decide, you know, okay, I'm an AB and I want to be with a BA or a BC. That's, you know, communicationally, you know, I've done my homework, and that's really who I connect with best. Okay, great. That it helps. You know, Ray Dalio is famous for saying, and lots of other people before him have no doubt said this, but the quality of our life is reducible to the quality of our decisions. And so anything that we can use to make better decisions is worth our time.
Mhm. I also had the sense that if I understood and could recognize where someone else was coming from, that I could have more empathy or like identify and say, oh, they're really into informing right now.
Oh my goodness, it's such a good way to put it, Yolanda. We are able to extend empathy, compassion, to others who are different than us. And on the flip side, we don't take things personally. Like, oh, okay, you know, someone did a fact check on me, and A is my third, for example. Oh, and instead of getting offended, you know, they know what I'm trying to say. Well, we have different goals. When we think about how there are really only 2 ultimate reasons for talking, because A and C are reducible. They want to understand, right? And then B's want to share their experiences. This is why we talk, and this is why we listen too. So if you are talking in A or C, then you want to share your understanding. If you're listening and you're an A or a C, you're listening for understanding. So understanding is the motivation. For B's, understanding is not the motivation. Experiencing, sharing the experience, getting a reaction. The reason, why do we do that? To be heard. It's to be heard. We want to witness. In fact, we hear people say all the time, you know, if somebody interrupts a relator, oh, you know, you're not hearing me.
Mm.
And often in A or C will say, you don't understand. Often these kind of complaints are born out of the actual motivation underlying our talk. And so let's say you have a talk type that doesn't have A, like a C, CB, or BC, and you're talking to an A dominant, and they're just fact checking everything you're saying, and that's just getting really annoying. And you're like, you know what I mean? Let's just stop. Well, for a BC or a CB, especially for a B dominant, understanding isn't the point. But the other person's listening because they're trying to understand. That's their point. So they're listening for the facts of your conversation, and you're talking not for the facts. You're talking to relate and share an experience, and so it just doesn't add up. Now the opposite is true too. A's and C's usually don't mind being interrupted. If you're interrupting because you want clarification for something. Oh, you want to understand better? You don't understand something? Great. Let me clear that up for you, because now our motivations are working together. They're not antithetical to one another. If I interrupt a B, well, that runs completely contrary to being heard. I'm stopping the being heard from happening. So yeah, when we start to see this, we absolutely stop taking things personally to the extent that we did before. It's so empowering.
And what I think is, you said before that you could see in your preschooler children certain talk types already emerging. So it seems like in a family, here we are, 3 women from one family, each of us could have different talk types.
Oh yeah, and no doubt, you do, or at least 2, 2 different kinds, if not 3. Yeah, most likely. It's not that common for people in the same family to have, all the same talk. It's just not that common, interestingly.
So girls, I at first when I talked to Amanda about doing the episode, I thought for sure I was an informer relator. And then I realized, I don't know, but I'm pretty much into meaning. And maybe it's the meaning maker relator that I tend to be. And she asked me some quick questions. She asked me, do I ask you guys how things went on kind of like a regular basis? Do you
Yeah,
think
you do. Yeah, but I think that's like, you're curious, as my mom, how things went or how I'm doing. So
Yeah.
it kind of has always made sense to me, but yeah.
And do you guys think that I'm a meaning maker?
Yes. Definitely. I mean, like, because I think whenever we like we're like troubleshooting problems, it's always like, like, let's deconstruct the meaning, like let's take it back. Like, I think, and just kind of like let's think about the big picture. So I think definitely I would say so.
Okay. How about you guys? What do you think you might be? And Amanda can help you, ask you some questions like she did me. Like, oh, do you ask them about how the date went? I'm like, oh, like I try and hold off from waiting. I wait do it the next day.
Yeah, and I will add too, as you're thinking about it, that it's important to remember that our home base doesn't have to be a reflection of, again, it's a preference practices discussion. I might be right-handed, but I'm not writing all the time. I'm still right-handed even when I'm not writing. So whatever your talk type, if you want to think maybe in terms of sitting, walking, running, with the 3 categories. We've all been on long flights, and if we had to do any of those three things for 8 hours, I think all of us would agree would rather be sitting for 8 hours. Now, even after sitting for a few hours, it does feel good up, and it feels good to get up and stretch our legs. And so walking is a relief to our sitting. But if we had to run for 8 hours, I mean, we'd be exhausted.
Mhm.
So if we think first about the one that's the least likely, we can kind of get it out the way. You know, which letter, which category don't you have? You know, which is the one that takes work for you, which is the running. And then from there, we can figure out which is sitting, which is walking. I think that can be helpful. And not to look at yourself like, which one do I do all the time? I mean, I'm a CA, but I don't spend my time talking about growth and struggles and challenges and hopes and fears all the time. And in fact, most of my day is spent in A. I am teaching this or you know, talking about that. But there's always a C program running in the back of my mind.
I can see
Um,
that. Yeah.
mhm,
With all your
That's
questions that you
that's
have.
right. So I know then that C is dominant because my A sits at the service of my C and not the other way around.
Mm. So, Key, what do you think you might be?
So I don't think that I'm an A. I don't, that requires running for me, being
Mhm,
very factual.
mhm.
Because sometimes at work, you know, you have to be factual, and I can do that, but I don't tend to love doing that all the time. I'd probably say my sitting is B and my walking is C, maybe. Like, I think, and I guess this was a question I was going to ask, because I think with B, I definitely feel like I do try to like relate with people a lot and like share experiences or share perspectives.
Mm.
Um, but sometimes it's like I'm too anxious about the situation or to, you know, some people aren't really open to having like a C kind of dialogue, you know.
Um,
Um, but I would like to, you know, but I don't want to like scare them off by asking like, you know, do you think humans are inherently good or bad? You know?
Right.
Like things like that. You know, I'm not sure if you kind of like have seen that in your like experience too, Amanda, that like maybe something you want, but maybe the situation or your own like perceived like ideas of the result of that conversation, you know, may stop you.
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, I would say that that's a characteristic that's common for many BCs. So I think
Hmm.
you hit the nail on the head. Um, a lot of BCs, I've got some close BC friends myself, and B is you know they're sitting. It's relaxing. It's rejuvenating. It's fun. It's light. Um, but they still need their C. They need to get their C fix. Otherwise, life feels a little bit off balance and ungrounded. And so it's really important for BCs to at least have that bestie or two that you can go there with. And for people who, and you know, you may have that and that's wonderful. But for anyone who doesn't, who's a BC, well, with the talk type model, then now you know, okay, I need that. I had better intentionally find a way to, you know, to get that. Yeah.
Mm.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
How about you, Em?
I'm kind of the opposite. I think A is my sitting. I have for like context, Amanda, I have a background in like policy and law. And
Wow.
I have like a master's degree in math-ish sort of field, like social sciences. So I'm like being factual is just very easy. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. I'm a negotiator at work, so like I also am really analytical and strategic. Um, I think I'm not afraid to have like the deeper conversations. I think it's just something I don't have often because like I don't know, like I think especially like for my friends as of late, like we'll have deep conversations, but like try not to have too many because like I think sometimes we're just looking for the decompression from like work and like life, which
Yep.
like you're confronting the big problems like constantly. So I think maybe it's probably like in order of like sitting, standing, running, like ACB, I think.
ACB. Okay.
Yeah, I think.
So B would be the least for you.
Yeah.
I would
Mm.
say
Here comes
rethink
mom.
that one, because you walk into a room and you light up. You're super social. You relate to everybody in the room. I don't know. Key's shaking her head too.
I think you
Because
might be of a B before a C, but
I
that's
think so
just
too.
Okay.
my perception of it. It's your truth, so don't listen to us if it doesn't sound right. But
No, I think maybe in that case, yeah, maybe it's like ABC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it might depend on like the environment you're in too, because I feel like I guess in the conversations that we have, it's not very factual a lot of the time.
Yeah, and I think it too, like I think for me, like when I think of like C topics, like I think of like vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
topics. I'm not vulnerable with a lot of people. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just who I am. Like I can talk to a wall, no problem. My mother-in-law thinks it's funny that I can just talk to a wall and hold a conversation. But I think it's more like, am I asking them like about like deep stuff, or am I answering questions that they've asked me about deep stuff and authentically? And I'm like, probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's, I mean, there's so much here. I mean, for starters, I think this is amazing. I love that you're both here because we can see, and we'll talk to Yolanda too. But we can already see a difference in the talk types within a single family, and the nurture is all the same, but it's the nature that's different. You know, I assume that you had some overlap in experiences growing up, you know, being from the same family, but you still end up with different talk types. So that's a cool reminder. The other thing I would add is it seems just off the cuff that maybe Emma, maybe they're right, that B is your secondary. And I'll say this, from the short time that I have known you, you said a comment that seemed to be pretty telling. You said, gosh, you know, I don't do the meaning making, the deep stuff that much because we're trying to, I'm trying to decompress from work, you know, and not add to it, basically. Well, if C was something that was in your talk type, you would enjoy it. It wouldn't be work to you. It would actually be energizing, and it wouldn't be energy depleting. So that is an indicator right there that they may be right about you being an AB.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's definitely accurate.
Mm-hmm.
I think too, just so interesting if you think about it for your work, because the people around you on your teams, Emma works at Pinterest and Kiki's at Discord, that you must see it in teams, right, Amanda?
Oh yeah.
And you help them understand like how different talk types would relate to each other in a team environment.
Yeah, in teams, in families, anywhere where people interact, which is everywhere. Even as we can see here within one family unit, people are so different. Now, the good news is that there are only 6 talk types. So we're not talking about an infinite range here. 6, it's easy enough for us to wrap our heads around. The other thing is, and I'll cycle back to what Emma and Kiki said, is that, oh, Kiki said, well, you know, we don't do, when Emma and I talk, we don't really do a lot of A together. Well, guess what? That makes sense. In fact, we can use our talk types to predict the kinds of connections and potential conflicts we may have. So let's just imagine if Kiki's a BC and Emma is an AB, what's the one letter they overlap in?
Mm.
B.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably where they'll spend the bulk of their time. But if Kiki needs her C needs met, she's probably not going to lean in on Emma for that. You know, now they're sisters, so there may be some sister things that just have to happen. But generally, Kiki will probably go to her C friends for that, and Emma will go to her A friends for the A stuff. And that's life. But that's just the beginning of some of the applications. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to think of my husband right now. What do you guys think of like I think he's definitely if there was an A,
Yeah, I was gonna say dad is definitely an A. There's no
Type
way
A.
he's not. Yeah.
totally, I but he can relate. He can turn it
Yeah.
on when he wants to.
Yeah, definitely.
I think my experience, I would say he's an AC because he's
Oh,
very
meaning maker.
analytical, but like
Yeah.
then he'll ask me like, hey, what's the root of that one word? And like it's a very big picture thing. It involves a couple Google searches. So I think if that's kind of under the purview of C, I would say that
Yeah.
that's definitely like how
I
I
think you're
see
right.
it. But I mean, he can relate to people. It's not like he's just an analytical robot, but like, you know. I
Yeah.
would say like he definitely is not afraid to go for like the big picture stuff. Like my fiance always comments that whenever we have dinner at like the Cannies, like it's always like, wow, we talk about some really profound stuff.
It's true.
And then when we have dinner at his parents' house, it's like so mundane.
Well,
So
I think that's the overlap, right? The C.
Mm.
Um, and Emma, I know it's not that you're top, but it does pop up and you're just amazing with insights that you bring to the party. So I think that's how we all relate, Amanda. I mean, we find our little and does that kind of happen in teams? Like they kind of find their ways of relating. You don't have to be like your partner or your team. You can be different, but then find how you do relate.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, what we do in teams and families too is we take turns operating in our areas of strength, our respective areas of strength. Um, and we're not, the good news is that unless we're the exact same talk type, we're always going to have one letter that's off
Mm-hmm.
between us. But what we also have, the good news is we have one letter that's shared between us
Mm-hmm.
always, because
Mm-hmm.
there are only three variables. And so that's the beauty of it. And so what that means is maybe, okay, maybe Emma and Kiki are going to do some B together, and maybe there's an AC at the table. And for that moment, the AC is just, observing, listening in to the Bs do their thing. But then when somebody needs some maybe some C, or and then they'll lean into the one
Yeah.
who has C, and we just take turns operating in our areas of strength. And for teams and families, what's a goal there is to be able to just trust each other, say, um, and especially in the workplace, because those different strengths do lead to um, they end up providing something. If you're operating out of your own strength, that somebody else who's doing it sort of unnaturally, they're just not going to be able to produce the same result, not in the way that you do it natively. We're
Mm.
talking native and non-native, and so to just allow ourselves and accept ourselves and accept each other, it's a beautiful thing, and it produces better results, yeah, in families and in the work environment.
Wow. So, girls, got any more questions for Amanda or anything else that we should cover? Amanda, I mean, I hope everybody goes and gets the book because I think it's totally eye-opening so that we can understand each other a little bit. What do you guys think? Yeah, Kiki, or
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, Amanda, but you're bringing up, the dynamics between maybe having like, because I'm thinking about work too. Like I hang out with some of my coworkers after work, and there's one colleague of mine who is definitely in A sitting. And a lot of my colleagues are, Bs, primarily. So we'll have a lot of B conversation. But then, if there's like a C related kind of topic, and then he'll jump in and chat too.
Mm.
So it's interesting like that you were just mentioning that because I can totally relate to seeing how that like um having that like experience at work, and that makes me understand him a bit more. I think at first I had a hard time understanding him. Um, but now it's like I have total admiration for, being able to go to him with a question or be like, okay, what do you think about this? Like objectively,
Exactly.
when you have to. It's like, it's so great that all of us are different, but they're all different, like, strengths, and that we can like rely on each other. And so it's really amazing. So I'm really happy to have learned about it. So
I love
thank you.
it. I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah, thanks for sharing that story. So many people have that story, in their own version, at work, or in their families. And yeah, so no, it's super important.
Yeah, no, I think this is like really interesting because I've never really like thought about like archetypes of like communication. So this has been kind of cool because I think like, I have at work naturally because I work in under accounting, like a lot of A's, and like I'm comfortable working with A's. But, I work a lot with marketers as well, who are definitely not A's,
Yep.
like they're kind of probably a little bit more like B.
Yep.
Um, so it's kind of interesting because it's like I can see like why I'm in like the finance part of it and not like the marketing part of it. So it's just really interesting reflection.
Mhm.
No, that's important too, Emma, because actually it's a reminder that our talk type and our career, um, there's actually predictability there in terms of alignment and satisfaction. And if we're happy at our jobs, then there's a good chance that either the work itself is aligned with our talk type, or our coworkers and colleagues fulfill that space for us, even if the work isn't something we enjoy a whole lot. So having one of those align, absolutely important,
Mm,
crucial in a job.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
right. Anything else, Amanda? You got us all organized. I can tell what the
We
conversation
didn't
is
get
going
to
to be
your
next.
talk type, Yolanda. But there's gosh, there's so much more always. Uh you know the A, B, and C bombs, the body language, we could go on.
I know.
So
It's just such rich stuff.
yeah.
And it's so backed, you guys, when you look at the book, um, she really guides you through it, and the way in which you can identify, and the humor, like she looks at humor and how for our talk types, how humor shows up differently, which I thought was really good. And then I also love that you put the famous people that were of your type. So Emma, I think um, Bill Gates, right, falls into is was
Yep.
he?
Bill Gates and Elizabeth Warren.
Ah, okay.
There you
That makes
go.
sense.
Yep.
And Kiki, I'm what was you were a C
BC.
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 BC would be Amy
I
Schumer.
think Obama was also
Oh,
was Obama.
AC.
Okay.
AC. Yeah, because
AC.
you can think of a speech from him, and it doesn't even have to be a speech, because those are curated, but maybe an interview with Obama. He's talking facts first. And then underneath that, though, is the deep meaning about what this means for everyday working Americans, and you know
Yeah.
democracy, and
Mhm.
so AC. Mm-hmm.
And was Oprah? Oprah was
Yes.
mine, right?
Yep.
CB.
CB.
Yeah. Anyway, well, it was really fun and so enjoyed this. Um, so how can our listeners and viewers find and follow you?
Yep. So you can get the book on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. You can go to amandakenderes.com, talktypes.com. And there are some links to connect there, and also a link to take the test. You can just, see if you're having trouble figuring out your talk type, take the test and see what you get, that route too. And that can be a good confirmation.
Terrific. And Amanda, what would you tell your 20 something self today?
Oh gosh. it would have to be something around decisions. Although, where I am now, I've made some decisions I wouldn't make again. I mean, we all have. Um, but yeah, but I would say maybe take more time making those decisions and before you really commit. The big ones. I think we do this a little bit backwards in life. We spend so much time on Amazon reading reviews about a body wash, but when we commit to a life partner, sometimes we jump in without really thinking about it. And so the time spent is there's a reverse correlation going on. I
That's
think
interesting.
with the big things and the small things, and I think it makes sense. It's hard for us to wrap our head around the big things, and sometimes we can short circuit if we think about the gravity of them for too long. So, but we can wrap our heads around a body wash. So.
So um, no, I don't know if you had a chance to go to our shop to look at the cards and gifts we have. Did you have a chance? Oh, you
I
did.
did.
And which one did spoke to you?
Um, the one about, I'm sorry, this is see if you ask me about it, but the one about the sorry for your loss. That's the one I
Okay,
want.
that was Kiki, right? I mean, I designed
It's
that one
lovely.
for
Yeah.
you. And
Oh, it's sea. See, I can feel the sea coming out of it. Isn't that interesting? Even in the artwork that we produce.
Mhm. Oh yeah, that store is heavy sea, I think.
Well, no wonder I was attracted to it because I mean, gosh, again, this sounds awful, but it happens. It's part of life. But I know someone who's going to lose someone soon, and
Oh,
so and that was like, oh, this is perfect. It's beautiful. The message, everything's lovely, and sometimes when people have an illness and it's known and they're older and letting them go is part of the process. So I mean, I joke about it, but it was the one that spoke to me, and so
that's fine. Thank
it
you.
is
Thank you for
lovely.
that.
And so I love that the story that it was created out of can also extend to where it's going. So I love that.
Yeah.
It's more see.
Yeah, the girls come in and they go, "Hey, mom, you got a card for this?" And I go, "I guess I'll make
You got a
one."
card for everything, so
And I'll
I
be
love
back
it.
in 20 minutes to get
Yeah.
it. So,
So thanks, Kiki, for that. Yes.
Of course. Thanks, Mom.
Yes.
anything else, girls? Good. Everybody's good. Okay. Thank you so much, Amanda, for joining us today. And girls, thanks for bringing your calendars to join us.
Thank you for
Yes,
accommodating
thank
me.
you. Thank
Yes.
you, everyone. It was so great to have a conversation with all of you and so fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening today, and we sure hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please leave a comment wherever you listen to your podcasts. Tell a friend about us. Join our public Facebook group, Girl Take the Lead, or visit our website, girltaketheleadpod.com. We also have a YouTube channel where your subscription would be appreciated. Once you're on YouTube, search at Girl Take the Lead. And we recently expanded to YouTube Music, where you can find a video of this episode. You can also find a video on Spotify. Here are 3 episode takeaways. 1, all communication stems from sharing experiences of understanding and categorized into 3 types. A, factual talk. B, relating through experiences. And C, deep meaning making. Our individual alignment with these types affects how we connect with others and perhaps our experience of joy. 2, there are 6 talk profiles. Ranking the 3 types creates 6 unique talk profiles, each serving as a personal home base. Understanding these profiles enhances connection, decision making, and empathy by aligning communication with others' preferences. 3, our talk type influences how we listen and interpret others, helping us avoid taking things personally. In families and teams, differing talk types are common, but often share one overlap, offering opportunities for improved collaboration and understanding. We've been asking our guests to go to our card and gift store at our website, girltaketheleadpod.com/shop, and tell us which items spoke most to them. And Amanda picked Thinking of You. So check out Amanda's choice and see our newest birthday cards that we've added. Our next episode will feature our guest, Dr. Kate Flynn, who is a crisis coach and developmental psychologist with a Ph.D. in developmental psychology. We are going to discuss post-traumatic growth, the differences between trauma and crisis, and we'll reference the book, The Body Keeps the Score. Amazing book. Our hope with this episode is that perhaps we all recognize that we can have stuff we haven't even seen that gets in the way of our healing and going for what we really want in our lives. So talk to you soon.